Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Marilyn Darling Show. And welcome to another episode of Introduction to Calligraphy. Hello, how are ya? Are you having a nice day? I hope you're having a nice day wherever you are in the world. Today we're going to be talking about feeds. But first, the daily things. January reminders are YouTube lives are at 1 p.m. Pacific. Saturdays are a Bujo setup video, and Fridays are currently inked. Today's currently inked fountain pen is the Twisby Go with a broad nib with Monteverde Capri Blue. And there's a little sample of Capri Blue. And the daily things. Oh, first let's do some housekeeping. Okay. Awesome. Okay, let's take a look at the things it's not going to cooperate. Okay, well, there. Alright, there it is. Today, the sun rose at 8:40 a.m. and it will sunset at 5:02 p.m. Today on the calendar is... Oh, the water will be turned off at 10 a.m. So hopefully that has already happened. Blind views will be at 4 p.m. Today's weather is 79 degrees and sunny. Today's question of the day is, what is the difference between living and existing? And today's quote of the days are, facts are stubborn, but statistics are more pliable. Read all of the mail, and I am live. Ooh, shiny new pilot. Vanishing point. Thinking thoughts about getting a pilot vanishing point. Maybe sometime in the future. I have liked all of the Instagram. I have done the birthday message. And I have answered all of the Facebook notifications. And I have answered all of the YouTube comments. Cool? Alright. Yesterday, I did not eat lunch. I watched the subscriptions, Yahoo, Gmail, the YouTube, snail mail. Let's see, did I get anything in the snail mail yesterday? I don't think I did. I got a letter to tell me that the water was being turned off. That's it. 23. I had dinner, watched cartoons, took a shower, ate my pills, had coffee, tea, YouTube, and went to bed. No Zoom, no shopping. I did watch some Netflix, and I did watch some TikTok, and I did not take my blood pressure, but I did take my blood pressure today. I've had a bit of a headache, and I can always kind of tell when my blood pressure is going up, because it's 141/80, and I have kind of a weird, like, pressure headache going on right now. So that's a thing. Got up, had coffee, watched Kathy. No breakfast today. Calendar, question, quote, weather, Yahoo, Gmail, Instagram, birthday message, Facebook notification, YouTube comments, check the bank, the EBT, and I am live. So, as of where I will leave that for now. Alright then. Let's take a look at the Bujo just to make sure that we're not forgetting anything. So, today I did get a notification. I want to show you all because it's really exciting. Today I got a letter in the mail. With this. So I told you the guys that I won an Instagram giveaway, and the people never got back to me, and I kind of let it go because I was like, it's Christmas, I don't want to bother anybody, and so it wasn't up until that I saw the Conklin on the Goulet website that I thought, hey, I wonder about that contest. So I wrote the parent company, which is Yafa, and I asked them about it, and they sent out this thing to the Yafa people, or to the Conklin people, and she sent me the item for your giveaway winner has been shipped. Yay! Thank you, Christina. I really appreciate it. If you're watching, you are awesome. So I should be getting a Conklin Durograph in demo, another demo flex, a demo graph with an extra fine nib. That's going to be exciting. I've never had an actual extra fine nib. The only extra fine nib that I have is my Urin 401. And though it is a extra fine nib, it kind of writes like a fine nib. So, I don't know. And my other pens are all fine and up. So, unless this is considered an extra fine, it's 0.35 millimeters. Nope, don't want to write on my Bujo. So that's really exciting. Wanted to tell you all about that. Getting the extra fine. Yay! Super excited. Today we're going to talk about feeds. Let's talk about feeds. Break out my tools here. Just give me a second. Got a whole bunch of things that we're going to cover today. So I hope you all have a nice coffee standing by. One of these. And this one. And this one, and this one, and these, one of these, one of these. Oh yes. These. One of these. Go brain go. Okay. Some of these. What else? Let me think. Trying to think if there's any other types of feeds that I need to talk about. Oh. These. Oh, I have to talk about one of these. Might as well talk about this one. Any other types of feeds? Okay, I think that is a a good start. Now, you're asking yourself, what is the point of the feed? Well, the point of the feed is to give capillary action to ink through a reservoir to provide ink from the cartridge, converter, or barrel down the feed to the nib, down the slit to the tip. There's a lot, and some devices skip that process altogether. For example, this is a brush. The brush itself has a tip. Why is it not focusing? Okay. The brush itself has a tip, but the brush itself actually is the feed. Depending on how thick the brush is, will depend on how much ink will flow through it to the tips of the brush. The same thing happens in a fountain pen, only instead of a brush having the ink, there is a set of these fins that are very small, which give some sort of traction for the ink to flow down the middle slit here to give it some sort of resistance so that it flows down this here channel to the slit and then out to the tip onto the paper. Why is this important? You will find that different nibs and different feeds supply different amounts of ink. This is the same as this, pretty much basically. Pretty much the same. So, for example, this is I don't know what this is. Hold on. This is a medium nib. Let's see if I can show you. At any rate, you're going to have to take my word for it. It's a medium nib. And, oh, there, you can kind of see it. There, it's a medium nib. And, when you, compare different types of medium nibs, you will find that each of them are different. Have different types of flow. Flow is the resistance or ability for ink to travel down the feed, out the tine, through the tines, and out to the tip of the nib. Sometimes you may have to prime the feed in order to get the ink to flow properly. Once it gets to flow properly, you should be able to just give it a little tap, and the ink should come out. If the ink is not coming out, you may have a problem with your feed. There might be a particle in there that has dried, or there might be ink in there that is dried. My advice is to take out the feed, take your nib and feed out, and take a toothbrush. You can have a dedicated toothbrush like I do, and brush the tines. Brush right down the slit and make sure that there's no debris, there's no ink that's in there, so that way that the ink will run smoothly down from the back of this nib, back of this feed, through the top and out the slit. Anytime you have flow problems, usually has to do with the feed or the tines, which are the pieces here on the end, are too tight. So sometimes you can get just a tiny bit of flex out of it. Is it gonna freaking focus? you'll be able to put just a little tiny bit of pressure on to get it to open up just a little tiny bit. You should see ever so slightly, if you look at the nib, you should be able to see a little bit of light coming through it. If you can't see any light coming through it, you might want to open it up just a little tiny bit. Little tiny bit, not much. You don't want to break it, because if you do, then you will have horrible time trying to get it back together. The nib, the feed, goes inside of the feed housing, and that's what that looks like. It's just basically a tube that holds the nib on top of the feed, and sometimes they'll have a little key. Right here at the bottom, you'll find a flat spot that matches the flat spot on your feed. And the feed goes in there just like that. And then the nib sits on top. Just like that. And with minimal resistance, you should be able to just push your nib in. If there's no resistance, you might have the wrong feed in the wrong pen. Hiya, Gary. How are ya? Are you having a nice day? So, also, if you're having flow problems, you might have some sort of debris in the little hole back here. Now, if you have, there's all types of different nib housings. Some of them which unscrew from the grip section. Some nib housings come with a little O-ring right before the threads that meet the inside of the grip section to keep ink from flowing through the grip section. Let's just get this put back together. I just love these good old demonstrators. Okay. Some feeds from the older pens look like this, and when you pull them out, oh, I'm gonna get inky. Here we go. You will see that the feed is extremely large. You can see how deep that ink channel is. Different pens will come with different size ink channels. Depending on where you get them from, what they're made out of. So, let's just take a look-see. we'll do some comparison. You'll see this one comes with a very small channel. This is a Waterman. It comes with a very large channel. You can see that one is definitely not like the other. This is a Pilot Falcon. The Falcon feed is also a different type of a feed. Comes with a very small channel. This little line that goes all the way down is called the channel. And some nibs are keyed, which means that there's little flat edges on the side. You can kind of see it there. You'll see a little tiny flat spot on each side where the nibs meets the feed. And then you know it's seated in the correct place. Now some feeds do not have a nib feed housing. They just go straight into the grip section. So they just go in like that. And there you go. Some feeds are very large. This one is made of ebonite. This is a NOODLERS feed, and sometimes they'll have a hole in it. What is the hole for, you ask? Now this facilitates capillary action by allowing air to burp through the middle of the feed to keep the flow going. Because this doesn't have a slit that goes all the way up through the back of the feed to facilitate airflow, it will actually burp from the front of the nib instead of from the bottom of the feed. Burp from the top of the feed instead of the bottom of the feed. And some are friction fit and have no key, which means you can turn the feed inside of the section or the nib feed housing. Although it is kind of good to keep your nib feeds in the same place. However, this section is keyed with the nib, so you can only put the nib in one way. You can only put the nib in one way, so you kind of have to turn your feed over to see if it's pointing towards the tip. And you will see that different feeds have different size channels. And they're also made of different types of materials too. This is a hardened rubber called ebonite. These are hardened rubber called ebonite. And this is made of ABS plastic. Or injected molded plastic. Most of them will come with a number on it, so that way you can kind of number which number feed goes inside of which pen. You will find a lot of these types of feeds in the newer style of pens. Other types of feeds are marker feeds. Now this is just the nib part, and it only goes to about here. But inside this barrel is a giant piece of felt that has been soaked with dry erase fluid, dry erase ink, that facilitates ink out of its feed through the nib to the paper. Same thing with a Sharpie. This one is a pencil, and this feed has a mechanical mechanism. I can't see it. Do we have a transparent one I could show you? Hold on. So this one has a transparent section we can see. You see this little bit here? That's called the feed. Pushes the lead down through the nib unit to the end of the nib. So even pencils, even mechanical pencils have feeds. What about a crayon, you ask? Crayon's feed is this here wood. Now that doesn't make much sense, but it also gives it structure. It's also the barrel. So the feed is technically your arm. And when you need to advance the lead in a pencil, what do? You have to shove it into a pencil sharpener and cut the feed off in order to sharpen it. Same thing with Pentel Touch Sign pens. The nib only goes to about there, and the rest of the feed goes all the way up through the barrel. This is a Pilot Parallel, 2.4 millimeters. This one has a very unique style of feed. I call it a barrel feed. I am not actually sure if this facilitates ink flow or not. Then this little bit here comes off. If it wants to cooperate. And you can pull the nib right out of there. Now this nib is a two-part piece that you can kind of see the little divots there. Those little tiny divots are welded together, two plates that make up this nib. And the feed facilitates the ink to flow. Maybe? No. Yes. And that goes in the grip section. Cool. Couple different types. The next one that we're going to look at is the Lamy Style Nib. These are very unique. One, because these are a two-part nib, or a two-part feed. Sorry, keep saying nib, feed. Now these are very unique and very delicate, so be careful when you're disassembling your Lamy feed. Now this might seem like one big piece, and it kind of is. But if you take your finger, is it backward? Oh, it's backwards. Okay, so you take your finger and you push it out the back end, you will find that the Lamy feed comes apart into two parts. I know, I just blew some of your minds. Why does it come apart, you ask? Because this makes the channel extremely wide. If you wanted to use some sort of shimmery ink, you could use that. And then when you're done, you just take the top portion, plop it back on there, and shove it back into place. Cool. Put the nib back on. And then stick it back in the grip section. This one does not have a nib housing. Nib feed housing. And it just goes in there like that. Pardon the ink. Let's see. Another type of feed we'll look at is the Parker 51 style feeds. Some of these come apart, some of them do not. So if yours does not, don't force it. Okay. Now, here is the feed of the Shinah 51A. It looks like a typical feed, only it's housed in this nib feed housing. And then it has a little cap on that. And then that goes inside of a bigger housing, or the grip section. And sometimes you'll have to adjust your nib just a little bit to get it to line right up, because there's fins on the side of this that go inside of there. And if you have a little bit of OCD like me, you like everything to be perfect. Okay. Oh, I'm turning it the wrong way. Okay. Awesome. This is a similar type of nib housing. Only the feed is conical and it goes inside of the grip section. This one is extra finicky to take apart, so I'm not going to take it apart. I just wanted to show you guys that they come in different shapes. This feed is just like that feed is, only it's inside of the grip section and facilitates a different type of calligraphy ink out of the brush nib. And the last type of feeds that I want to talk about are the non-removable feeds. Like this here, Pilot Petite 1. You can remove the nib and you will see this substance right here. This is felt and it goes all the way from the back of the feed inside of the barrel or the converter to facilitate ink flow. The only thing about these types of feeds is you cannot take the feed out of the grip section. You probably can, but there'd be a whole lot of force involved and you might break your nib holding unit. So I wouldn't advise taking them apart. You will find things like this on the Pilot Petite 1. You will also find them on the Platinum, some of the Platinum devices. And some proprietary pens will tell you on the packaging, do not remove the nib unit, do not remove the feed, or it will void your warranty. So read those very carefully. The last one I wanted to talk about was this here is a Pilot G2. It too has a feed. And we can kind of see where the ink is. And right through here is the feed. And then this is the nib, obviously. Or if it wasn't obvious, this is the nib. And the feed goes from the back of the barrel into the nib. So, is there any other type of feeds that I haven't shown that you might be interested in? If so, please leave those comments in the section below, and I will try to show them to you. Some feeds will be very small. And have a little tiny channel. So these feeds are basically the same size, but one has a little bitty channel and one has a very huge, oh, you can't even see what I'm looking at. One has these two feeds are basically the same size. One has a very huge channel and the other has a little bitty tiny channel. And they put out different amounts of ink. So, are there any nib feeds that I haven't gone over today? Now, what does the feed do again? The feed facilitates flow of ink to the nib and out the tines to the tip of the nib. Try to think, is there any other pens that I haven't thought about that would be good to talk about? If I do think of any, I will let you know. Oh, another type of feed that you might come across is this one right here. This type of feed doesn't have any fins at all. This feed has no fins at all, which facilitates flow very well for doing calligraphy writing. Oh my god, why is this sticky? Anyway, just wanted to show you that. So, I hope that that was useful to you. If you guys have any other questions, comments, or concerns, please leave those in the comment section below, and I will try to go over them. Let's see, tomorrow we will talk about the feed housing. So, that is all for today. Thank you all for watching. I hope that that was educational and informational for you. Please share this video with your friends, follow me on social media, and I will be back tomorrow with another video. So take care until then. Okay, love you, bye.